Hello everyone, how are we all doing? Welcome back to another Wild Rift guide video. Today we have the new champion that got released today, Galio. Galio is a tank slash AP champion that does really well at crowd controlling your enemies, slamming down to help down your teammates, and being able to dish out a lot of AP damage. As always in this guide, we'll be going through the items, the runes, the spells, combos, and a lot more, so make sure you stay tuned for all of that. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We are closing very close now at getting 2,000 subs, so thank you all for your support. Hopefully you enjoy this guide, and hopefully there will be many more to come indeed. First up with Galio, we have the items. Now with Galio, you kind of want to go for this AP build with Galio, but you can also build tank items with your AP build as well, because Galio does really well. As I said, he's like a melee champion, so he kind of wants to get in and amongst the enemies, so tank items can help him out as well. First up, we have Rod of Ages. Now, when you want to build Rod of Ages is always at the start of the game, just because of the second passive part, which is Veteran, which is each stack provides 20 health, 10 mana, and 6 ability power, stacking at a rate of 1 every 30 seconds. So the later you build this item, the less benefit you'll get out of this passive. Obviously, it's a maximum of 10 stacks, so at 5 minutes or 5 minutes after you buy the Rod of Ages, you'll be able to get 200 extra health, 100 extra mana, and 60 extra ability power. Now, this is really good on Galio because it has a mixture of everything that you want. It has the health that you need. It has a mana which can help him out quite a lot because you'll be spamming spells to do wave clear. And also it has the ability power as well. So being able to use all that combination of tankiness plus ability power that Galio needs makes Rod of Ages a really good first item. Now, if you don't want to go for a tanky sort of Galio build, you can go for Luden's Echo as the first item. It does really well when you're using your first ability, your Q, wave clearing and poking down the enemies. But like I said, it's more of a more aggressive item that you can go for. Rod of Ages is, I would say, the go-to one, but if you want to go for like a full glass cannon Galio, no tank items at all, and you just want to go full damage, then it's probably best to go Luden's Echo first item, because it gives you that mana and it gives you a nice passive as well, which allows you to spread damage across the enemies. Second item for Galio, we have Rabadon's Death Cap. Gives him a massive amount of AP, and the passive as well obviously increases your ability power by 40% as well. So the more ability power you buy during the game will also benefit off the Rabadon's Death Cap, because your overall AP will be increased by 40% as well. Now let's move on to the boots and the boots enchant. Now this is where Galio can be very flexible. You have a lot of options for Galio. For me, for this one, I've gone for the Lucidity boots. This is because I haven't gone for Hunter Genius as the third rune option. I've gone for the Sweet Tooth instead. If you do go for Hunter Genius instead of Sweet Tooth as a rune option, you can go for like Ninja Tabbies instead, or more defensive boots to kind of keep yourself alive a lot more. But I've gone for Lucidity boots just because I haven't gone for the Hunter Genius as the third rune. Now for the boots and chants, I've gone for Stasis, but honestly, there are so many different boots and chants that you can buy on Galio which will make it worth your while. Now Stasis is the one that I've gone for. Stasis is really good when you're jumping into the team, when you're taunting everyone and you kind of want to keep yourself alive. You can activate your Stasis, and by that time some of your abilities will be back and available, so you can try and escape or even go back into the team fight. You have the Glory enchant. Glory works really well with your taunt, with Galio's taunt. You'll be able to use your taunt after you use a Glorious enchant to get that extra movement speed. And it also does really well if you want to get in amongst the enemy. The same with Proto Belt as well. You can use Proto Belt to get closer to the enemies to try and get that big massive AoE taunt off. Or you can go for more defensive route and you can go for the Stone Plate. Again, Galio is going to be in amongst as a melee champion, in amongst the enemy team. So Stone Plate gives you a lot of HP and a lot of resistances to keep yourself alive. Next up, we have Void Staff. Void Staff gives you that little bit of extra ability power and also gives you the magic penetration, which helps a lot against champions that are going to be building a lot of magic resist, or in general will just let you deal a lot more ability power damage. Now the next two items you might find a little bit odd, but the thing is, at the moment in Wild Rift there's not a lot of other AP items that really do well with Galio. Leandries doesn't really work well because you kind of have a combo and that's it, so you won't really be getting that damage every second in combat. Rylai's doesn't work really well because you only really have one spell to activate it. Morello, you won't be dealing a lot of AoE damage, so again it's not really good to get that healing reduction. So this is why I've gone for like 2 tanky items afterwards. First off, you have the Abyssal Mask. The Abyssal Mask is the magic resist version of the defensive items. And as I said with Galio, he's kind of like an off tank. You have the ability power and you have the damage, but you can be a frontline tank as well at the same time. Now, the Eternity effect is the exact same as the Rod of Ages, so that will cancel itself out. But the main reason why I've gone for Abyssal Mask is because of the second passive, which is nearby enemies take 15% bonus at magic damage. As I said, with Galio, you want to get in amongst the team, you want to use that second ability to taunt the whole team, and you want to use your abilities to do a lot of damage, plus your passive as well with your auto attack. So when you're close to enemies and when you're taunting them, it will allow them to take 15% bonus damage, which can help yourself and also help your team at the same time. Then we've gone for Thorn Mail as the armor option for the tankiness. Immobilizing enemies is super easy on Galio. You have your taunt is your second ability, you have a knock up on your third ability, and you also have your ultimate which can knock up multiple enemies at once. So you can deal grievous wounds really easily, and as I said, it's a nice defensive option for armor that can help you out, especially in the later game. Now let's move on to the runes. Now the runes might seem a little bit weird compared to the recommended build, but trust me, this is the go-to runes for Galio. First off, we have Aftershock. Now again, as I just said before, immobilizing enemies is super easy with Galio. Second ability, third ability, and your ultimate all immobilize if you hit a target. This allows Galio to get them extra resistances, and also you get the little bit of extra damage as well on top of that, which is really nice. So it allows you to go into the team, be able to get your taunt off, so not only will you be doing damage with this build, but you'll also be surviving for a long amount of time with the Aftershock. Again, the same thing with weakness. Impairing the movement of the enemy makes them take 5% more damage in the next 5 seconds. So again, really easy to impale the enemy, so you can get that off and you can get the extra 5% damage. Hunter Titan to get that little bit of extra HP. You'll be taunting and getting a lot of assists with Galio. You probably won't be getting that many kills, but assists definitely, because you'll be ulting in onto your team to give them a shield, which will help get assists, and also you'll be taunting the whole enemy team as well, which most of the time you'll be getting assists from that. So this just makes Galio a little bit more tanky and gives in that little bit more HP. And then we have Sweet Tooth as the third rune. Again, just keeping yourself alive in the early game. It's really nice to get that little bit of extra healing and provide you with a little bit of extra free gold as well. And then for spells, we've gone Flash and Ignite. Now, I really feel like when you hit level 3 as Galio in lane, you can look for an all-in. You can use your third ability to dash into the enemy team, get the taunt off, get your first ability off, the AoE damage ability, and you can use the Ignite to help out and get that little bit of extra damage. But if you want to play more defensive, you can go for Barrier instead. It will help keep you alive during the early game. That's it for the items, runes, and spells. Let's move on to the abilities. First up for Galio, we have his passive, which is called Colossal Smash. It enhances his next attack to do a little bit of extra damage to nearby enemies. This comes up every 4 seconds and is a nice little AoE auto attack. Can help you clear the waves and also deal that little bit of extra damage to the enemy. How the passive works is pretty simple. It's just every 4 seconds you get a nice enhanced auto attack. When you auto attack, it does a nice little AoE effect that can deal damage to nearby enemies. Once you auto attack, you have to wait 4 seconds, and you can tell it's back up when Galio starts glowing. When Galio glows again, you can see that the passive is back up and available. So keep that in mind. Just make sure you keep a track on Galio. Every time you hear that sound, you know that the passive is back on and available, so you can use it to help clear the minion wave or help attack the enemies. Next up for Galio, we have his first ability called Winds of War. Fires 2 wind blasts that do a little bit of magic damage and converge into a tornado. So there's 2 separate paths that go either way, and they combine into one to make a tornado. Now the tornado does magic damage equal to 8% of the target's maximum health over 1.5 seconds. As you can see, the Wind Blast is on either side of Galio. This forms into a AoE tornado, which is a circle right at the end. So most of the time you want to kind of manually aim this, so you don't really want to tap it as much. You could do it as far away as possible as you want, or you could do it as close as possible as well, which will allow you to do it on top of your enemies, or to, you know, do that little bit of extra poke damage during the laning phase. Next up for Galio, we have his second ability, which is called Shield of Durand. Now, it has 3 effects, as you can tell, so I'll go through each one to explain them all for you. The first one is the passive, which is really, really important, and this is why Galio does pretty well against magic damage champions. Every 12 seconds upon taking magic damage, Galio gains a shield that absorbs magic damage over 3.5 seconds. So if you're against like a Diana, a Carly, Oriana, anything that does ability power damage or magic damage, then Galio will gain a shield that will help him out survive a little bit in the early laning phases. And this can help, especially in the late game as well. When you get into them team fights, you'll be able to get a magic shield that can help you out a little. Then you have the active part. Now the active part has 2 parts. You have the hold, so you can hold the ability. Enters a defense stance, slowing him down for 25% for up to 2 seconds. Galio also takes reduce magic damage and reduce physical damage as well. Then you have the release part, so when you release the button, you'll deal 40 magic damage to nearby enemies and taunt them for 0.5 to 1.5 seconds, and it increases with how long you hold the button. Now, as you can see with me moving around at the moment, it's kind of normal movement speed for Galio. Once I use or hold my second ability, you can see that I get a little bit slower, not too much slower if I'm totally honest with you, but makes you a little bit slower, so just keep that in mind when you're trying to walk towards the enemies. You will be quite slowed. And also, as you can tell, when you hold the ability as well, the AoE effect of the ability, so taunt, gets bigger as you hold it, obviously to the maximum range. Now when you taunt enemies, that means that enemies will start to walk towards you, so it's a good way to taunt first and then combo that with your other abilities. When you taunt an enemy, they'll start walking towards you and you'll obviously get the resistances. And as you can see there, really nice and easy way to proc the aftershock. Now, as mentioned before, this can work on multiple enemies as well. Just make sure that the second ability is hitting all of them at once. Once you taunt everyone, they'll all be taunted and they'll all start walking towards you. So again, it's a really nice and big, massive team fight ability that can change the fight in an instance. If you want to as well, you can also just tap the ability if you want to. I wouldn't really recommend it, but it is an option. Tapping the ability still does a little bit of area of effect taunt around you, as you can see there. But as you can see, the duration is nowhere near as long. You can compare the two. So this is me tapping it. You can see that they're taunted. Every time I hold it, you can see that they're taunted for a lot longer. So it gives you that 1 second difference between tapping the ability and holding the ability. So I'd really recommend holding the ability and giving it a try. You get that big massive defense stance as well. So when you're using or holding your ability, you'll take reduced magic and physical damage. Next up for Galio, we have his third ability, which is called Justice Punch. Dashes forwards until he hits an enemy or terrain, dealing a little bit of magic damage to enemies and knocking them up for 0.5 seconds. Now you can use the ability normally. As you can see, you can use it and knock up enemies nearby, and again it will also proc the aftershock. Now a thing to note as well is that with your third ability, every single time you use the ability and you hit an enemy, it will automatically auto attack to that enemy. So as you can see, I'm just going to use the ability. I'm not going to attack at all or anything. If I walk up, you can see that it auto attacks automatically. Works really, really well with the passive, so you can use your third ability to walk up and use that auto attack straight away, so you can proc the passive and get a nice little damage off. Now I don't know if you noticed from me using that third ability, but as you can see, Galio dashes back a little bit before he actually dashes forward. I'll show you again. As you can see, there's a little bit of a leeway between the edge of the ability at the back and the ability going forward. As you can see, when you use the ability, Galio actually dashes backwards and then dashes forwards. You can use this to your advantage, again, an easy, quick knock-up on the enemies. If you're close to the enemies, which is what will happen most of the time when you're taunting them, you can actually use the ability and stand a little bit further forward, and what will happen is Galio will then move back a little bit and then knock them up straight away. I'll just show you how it works. You see there? So you can use this to your advantage and actually get a quick knock up on the enemy to kind of keep them in place. So instead of using your third ability at range, obviously it takes a little bit of time and people can react to it with either a flash or barrier or anything like that. You can use it to your advantage and you can stand on top of the enemy. So when you're taunting them, you can taunt them, and then you can use the third ability to instantly knock them up and they get that nice easy auto attack off. So a nice little combo there for you to practice before you get into game with Galio, but a nice, easy and effective way to get a quick and easy knock up. Lastly for Galio, we have his ultimate, which is Hero's Entrance. Grants a shielded Duran's passive shield for 3.5 seconds to all allied champions near the target and designates the position as his landing zone. Now, the Shield of Duran's passive shield, if you don't remember, is a magic shield. So all nearby allies to the champion that you use your ultimate on will get this shield for 3.5 seconds. So nice little defensive tool in a way. But the big one is the second part of the ultimate. After 2.5 seconds, Galio arrives at the location, dealing magic damage to nearby enemies and knocking them up for 0.75 seconds. So not only do you help your team out and give them a defensive shield, but also Galio arrives to that location and you can, you know, get your combo off, be able to help in a team fight. So it's a really good way at turning around team fights, especially during like dragons, baron fights. It's really, really awesome. Now, when I use the ability, as you can see on the mini-map, it is a huge, massive ability that you can pretty much use around the whole map. So when you're playing mid lane, you can just walk up to lane a little bit, and you can use it right here on the, well, target dummy now, but on your allied teammates. As you can see, I haven't even walked up that much. I've only walked a little bit past the bush. But what will happen is, when you use your ultimate, you'll give them a magic shield, and you'll arrive at the location, being able to deal that little bit of knock-up damage. So you can combo, you can use all your abilities, which is really, really nice way of doing it. You can use it at whatever location as well. I wouldn't really recommend using it when you're on top of an ally. So like this, you can use your ultimate like this. It's not a bad thing, but you mainly want to use it when you're kind of away from the team, so you can arrive and you can be that bit of a surprise factor. Now, there's a few combos I want to show you guys before we move on to the leveling priority. This is to be able to get the big, massive combo off for Galio. The first one is to do with your third and your second ability. Now, as I said before, your third ability you can use to charge towards the enemies. Now, what you can actually do is, as you're traveling with your third ability, you can hold your second ability, your taunt, to get a taunt off pretty much straight away as soon as your third ability goes off. So it'll kind of cancel the auto attack that you get normally with your third ability, and you'll be able to taunt straight away afterwards. So it will give enemies less of a time to flash away, and you get a nice combo off. I'll show you how it works.
Feels good to stretch my way.
As you can see there, we knocked up the enemy, and then afterwards we was able to get the taunt off, so they can't actually move at all. So it allows us to use our empowered auto attack and use our Q to get a nice easy knock up. The next one again is comboing all your abilities together, but this time we're going to be using the taunt ability first. So we go from the taunt, and then we use that taunt to be able to knock up the enemies really easily with the third ability, and then we can combo that with the Q and the auto attack.
Let's move. I've got people to inspire.
As you can see, again, a nice easy way to get your combo off. And as you can see, I use the third ability really well, because as you can tell with the third ability, it has two dashes. So you dash backwards and then you dash forwards, so you can get a nice easy knock up off. So again, you taunt, use the third ability to dash backwards, and then you can get your full combo off. Like I said, instead of dashing at range, this will be good when you're really close to enemies, so you can use the third ability, dash backwards, and then get that nice easy knock up off. Now let's take a look at the ability priorities for Galio to see what ability you should be leveling up first. Now, the first ability you want to go for when you get to laning phase is the first ability. This ability allows you to poke down the enemies and also push the waves really, really easily to give Galio that little bit of leeway in the early game where Galio kind of struggles a little bit. For level 2, you want to go for the second ability. This allows Galio to walk forwards and try and get that nice and easy taunt off. If you do get that taunt off early on, you'll be able to use that with your aftershock to be able to get a little bit of extra damage, and you can combo that with your first ability and your auto attacks, which most of the time you can get a better trade-off against the enemy champion. Then as always, at level 3, you get your third ability to make sure you have all abilities available. You can now use your third ability to dash towards the enemies, so you can get the taunt off from your second ability and also the first ability to get a nice little tornado damage. Now, as you level up Galio, the first ability you want to prioritize is the first ability. We'll be able to do a little bit extra base damage and reduce the cooldown, which is really, really nice. Obviously, make sure you level up ultimate when available. After you get your first ability max, you want to go for your second ability. Gives you more resistances, less cooldown. And then after you finish leveling up the second ability, you can go for the third ability and level up ultimate when available. That's it for today for my guide for Galio. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Will he be a mid lane champion? Will he be maybe a support lane champion? we'll have to wait and find out and see what people think about Galio. But overall, I think Galio is going to be a pretty solid pick. Obviously, there's a lot of assassins going around at the moment. Katarina's Akali. So Galio is a good way to kind of counteract that kind of play style at the moment. When Katarina ultis, you can use your taunt to stop it. When Akali jumps in, you can just taunt her so they always focus on you. So a good way to get a bit of damage off, but also being able to protect your team at the same time. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Until next time, stay safe, take care, and I'll see you all very soon. Peace.